Welcome back to the ANSO Podcast. I'm your host, Manuel Calo, and today we have an incredible, inspiring guest, Rocío Pérez, international speaker, best-selling author, and the creator of the MindShift Experience. Rocío's story is one of resilience, transformation, and leadership. From dropping out of the school in seventh grade and becoming a mom at 15 to overcoming homelessness and adversity, she has risen to guide over 60,000 professional worldwide throughout her powerful framework of mindset and leadership. Before we dive in, I'd like to remind our listeners that the views expressed in this podcast are those of the speakers and do not represent the official policy or position of the Department of Defense, Department of the Navy, or the Association of Naval Service Officers, ANSO. With that said, let's shift our mindset and get started. Welcome, Rocío, to the ANSO Podcast. How are you doing today?
I am fantastic. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited about the conversation today and helping people create their version of a happy, healthy, and fulfilling life. So thank you for.
Yes, on behalf of the ANSO community and Jose Montalban, we want to welcome you to the ANSO Podcast. I think, we speak earlier, you're going to be my first full non-military in this podcast, so it's going to be interesting conversation. As I mentioned on my introduction, and obviously you share your bio with us, so you have like a life story that is very powerful. Can you take us back to those early days in your life, and what mindset allow you to keep moving forward despite all the odds at that time?
Wow, that's a very powerful question, especially as I'm in the midst of delivering my book, Identity Alchemy, which will be coming out this coming month. My story started off, I was a little girl with a dream. I wanted to become a teacher. I was 5 years old and I'd run around with my tattered books. I would tell my Tio Sergio, someday I'm going to become a teacher. And I would show him my books and talk with him what seemed to be hours. But the reality was very far-fetched. I grew up in extreme poverty, extreme abuse of all kinds. I contemplated what every child should never do. I contemplated suicide at the age of 5. And as I was moving forward and I'm thinking about how I'm going to do this, something changed inside of me. Call it a vision, call it a mission, call it something greater than life that was given to me. And that was the desire to become a teacher and to help people along their journey. So that was one of the things that I saw in my career life. I was a rebel, every time I was told that I wasn't good enough or whatever that was, I continued to move forward in life. And I said, okay, there's a lot more to life than what I'm seeing here. And I don't believe the people around me. That was the biggest thing that saved me, is that I did not believe, even when my mother said, you're not good enough, even when she said, I don't love you, even when she said, you're the worst. I believed inside of me. I believe that we come into this world with this amazing power inside of us, and it's there for all of us. That is what kept me moving forward, that unwavering belief, that connection to myself, the ability to be able to live inside of my mind in ways that other people have not been able to connect with. And I know it's available to all of us. So that's where my life began. Those are part of the tools that I talk about, is affirmations, belief, bold actions, really taking that on for ourselves, visualization, being able to see my life in a future, even though I was in a different place.
No, and again, by hearing this story, a powerful story, like I would mention before, I think we have some people in this type of mindset, and then we have that mindset shift. Recently, we had like a promotion ceremony as yesterday with one of my coworkers, and in his speech, he was talking about he wanted to commit suicide at one point, but he found the strength to overcome for that situation. And then now today's day is a fully major qualified in the U.S. Army, and I think that's some of us. And then one of the things he just mentioned, he said that sometimes if we have a situation with our car, we take it to the mechanic. If we have a situation with a house, we call the plumber with the plumbing. But then if we have something in your minds, you have to actually go to the mental, see for mental health and why not. So that was powerful, a moment that he shared in his speech. And I can relate back when you mentioned that based on your story.
Yes. I think one of the biggest things as I continued moving through my life that made a major difference in my life was the ability to be able to see my future before I walked into the future. And even as a little girl, I believe that we have this amazing creativity inside of each and every one of us. It's available to all of us. And based on that, I realized that I could move forward. I can do things. I can even if things are not ideal in the situation that I'm in. My abuela used to always say, "Cada cabeza es un mundo." Y
Mhm.
todo tiene solución menos la muerte, right? Every mind is its own world, and everything has a solution except for death. And I took that to heart throughout my life and figuring out how do I move forward? How do I powerfully create this life, even though my environment wasn't what I wanted it to be? How do I create that life that I love and desire? Because I knew I would become that teacher. And guess what? Even more so, having a child at the age of 15, I was pregnant at 14, I was a teenage
Mhm.
runaway. You could have said, you know what, Rocio's never going to go anywhere based on her life right now. If you were just to take a big picture vision, you would say, no, no way. There's no way that she would ever make anything of herself. And what I say is that it exists all inside of us, like that vision, that dream, that connection was inside of me all along. And that's what I let guide me, not the people or the situations around me, but life
Mhm.
itself.
No, most definitely. And then obviously, you often talk about dignity and vision, right? So that's what drive. Even when you have your hat, your shoes with the holes in that portion of your bio, how that inner vision shape your path at that moment.
Wow, that's such an interesting. This is the first time I've ever been asked this on camera here, and being like completely impoverished that I did have holes on the bottoms of my shoes. You know what? I didn't take a look at where I was in that moment. I took a look
Mhm.
into the future, which is what allowed me because I knew that the life I was living would not be the life that I would live. And I think that's the most important thing that anyone can take away with is that opportunity to be able to connect, to co-create even with yourself, right? Sometimes we don't even have people around us that believe in us, or sometimes we have people around us that are making our life very
Mhm.
difficult. And so for me, it was that vision. That vision kept on constantly pulling me forward in the midst of chaos.
Yeah, most definitely. And then, how you got started to get inspired to build the mind shift experience, and then after your corporate. So, can you talk about your corporate experience after you were able to actually bounce back, and then how was that? How you were able to actually build that mind shift experience?
Well, first of all, I've been coaching people since I was 19 years old. So it's
Mm-hmm.
been 30 years in the making of helping people from all walks of life, military, even ex-cons. I had people from everywhere, every walk of life to help them achieve their dream and desire. But really, where the mind shift came from was my own personal experience. I had moved to San Diego. I had actually been diagnosed with a brain tumor at the age of 34. It changed my life completely. I knew that if I didn't find a solution for myself, that I would die. And I moved to San Diego from Colorado, figuring out life, seeing what was possible for me. And in that, people are calling me like, Rocio, I need your energy. These are people
Mm-hmm.
that I've been coaching, and I had been coaching by that time almost 17 years of my life. And I said, how can these very people that I coach have everything that I want? And I wasn't talking about accolades or degrees or anything. I was on billboards, TV, and so forth. That's not what I was talking about. I wasn't talking about that level of success. The level of success that I was talking about was that I wanted to have fulfillment, and I wasn't fulfilled at that point in my life. I wanted my mother's love. Let's just put it that way. I could have packed every accolade, every degree, everything into a box, put it into this nice, beautiful box, and handed it to anybody that would have given me her love. And what I discovered in that time in my life, I'm like, nobody's ever coached me. These people are calling me. Nobody's ever coached me. Yes, I am this guerrera, this warrior that keeps on going forward, paving the way, taking people along the way with me. I've got you. Let's figure this out. There's a solution to everything. But it was in that moment right there, Emmanuel, that I took a look at my life and I said, you know what? How about I do the very things that I tell my clients to do? And so I started to use those same techniques, and I was talking techniques that were called nurturing myself, right? I started to nurture myself into the person that I wanted to be.
No, most definitely. So you always say you were coaching, like your clients, and at that point you're just like, hey, I need to use the same tools I coach to myself, and start like breaking and my shift my own self. Now, I know something in the military, higher education is something that our fellow soldiers, or Marine and coasties, everyone is they follow, to continue progressing. I see that you actually have a dual MBA at that moment, and you had so many challenges. Can you speak on some of the challenges and how you were overcome those challenges? So for those that are listening right now on the podcast and they're trying to pursue higher education while working, it's doable. Can you speak about that?
Oh my, it's so doable. I would say, to begin with, I divorced my parents. I emancipated myself at the age of 15 so I can go to university. I had only completed the sixth grade. I went to half of the seventh grade and I actually ditched. I shouldn't even get credit for even being there. But what I'd say is that my vision was far more powerful than my reality. And yes, it is difficult. I've worked two jobs. I remember at one point when I was 19 years old, I was in university and it was difficult. I came to my knees because I had to make a decision. I'm working two jobs. I don't have a car. I'm a single mother. I'm going to school, paying for school, and so forth. And it was difficult, but I had to make that choice this is only temporary. Everything's always temporary.
Mm-hmm.
And when I made that decision, life got easier. And in the beginning, when I started school, it was hard. I would say it was really, really hard because I was commuting to and from school 8 hours a day, 8 hours
Wow.
a day. So that level of commitment, hopping on a bus, getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, walking
Mm-hmm.
down the street in the snow with a baby, a backpack, a diaper bag, 2 cities over, drop off my son and make it to school. That was 8 hours a day every day, plus schooling. So life, anything is possible and probable. Yes, it may feel difficult. It feels difficult because it's
Mm-hmm.
unfamiliar. Until we get into a routine, it's almost like having a child or being in military for 5 years. It's very different than when you walked in day one, day five, day 50, 365 days later, things start becoming easier as we continue to become more familiar with what was unfamiliar to us.
No, no, and I concur. Right. So again, we always pray to our junior enlisted and military member officers to continue seeking for higher education. It's doable. I did it myself. I was like working for. I mean, I'm active duty military, and then I was like doing my master while like overnight. Although I had to fulfill my roles as an officer, then I would go home and then study to complete my master's and why not. But yeah, it's a powerful story because I know this is something that our younger listed and officer they always like seek for to continue higher education. But yeah, so that's why I wanted to ask you that question. Now, coming back to the mind shift, you spend time with corporate and nonprofits, and then started to actually put that experience. How do you define a mind shift, and what is so critical for the leaders of today, for leaders today?
Well, I think awareness is one of the biggest things, and I dedicate my life. And as a matter of fact, I literally took a break from a webinar or a workshop that I'm delivering, helping deliver right now to do this. And even I, as a leader, need a mind shift because my clients and people that I support cannot elevate. They can't level up unless I level up, right? They're only going to level up to the degree that I level up and the degree that I invite them to level up. Why is it important? Because our whole life depends on it. When I have the privilege to work with individuals, I see how they're shifting. Now they have better lives, like the outcomes speak for themselves. When a person becomes more aware, why is it that I'm doing, or why is it that I believe what I believe? There may be times, and give you a great example. Sometimes we're across the boardroom. Somebody says something. And, if we had a choice to get up and shut them up, we would, right?
Mhm.
But really, reality is that it has nothing to do with the person that's in front of us. It has to do with ourselves. And until we start to understand, why am I reacting this way? Why am I doing these things? We gain control when we do that. The moment that we realize that, is there something that I can do? Maybe I show up late to this interview, or maybe I show up hungry to this interview. Is that interview going to be as good as it was, as it would be if I had managed myself properly, right? And I know military trains very, very well.
Mhm.
And there's things too that once we become aware and responsible and shift those particular behaviors, then all of life happens in a very different way. Things start flowing, they come to us and through us. They're no longer being attacked. Things are very, very different.
Yeah, most definitely. And then I have a following question. Can you share a success story that it resonates where your framework truly transformed a leader or organization that you can speak and share with us?
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you. I had an individual who was top in the world in his field, and he was very excited about his work. We started working 6 weeks into it. His boss was giving him a promotion. And you would have thought that his boss was getting ready to reprimand him or fire him or whatever, the way that he came on board into one of our coaching sessions. And he's like, Rocio, I don't know, like, I don't like my boss. I can't believe that he's taking me out of this project. Now he's asking me to do this other project. I don't get it. Well, coming to the foundation, he found what the root cause was.
Hmm.
That happened to do with something with his father. It didn't even have to do with his boss. He was getting ready to quit his job because his boss was promoting him. Like, how crazy does that sound, right? Somebody's promoting,
Wow,
and like,
that's crazy. I mean, okay.
and like that story, there's many stories, Manuel. There's stories of people who were about to quit their business, sever their relationship with their business partner because they thought their business partner was doing something to them. But when we become aware that all of that exists inside of us first, like if we withhold information, there's a behavior, there's a someone who we're being that's giving us the results that we're having. Until we find those distinctions and have somebody guide us so we can build that muscle, because it's a muscle, right? One of the things I love about military, among many things, the discipline, right? There's discipline. It took time to be disciplined. Your body, your physical body, it took discipline. But you know what? We don't think about our mind as discipline. We don't think about building that muscle in the mind, that awareness muscle that is going to give us something very different.
Yeah, so but definitely we get trained most of the time, obviously, like a physical training, and that's why I said at the beginning. Sometimes we have to train, this muscle here, and that goes through knowledge, power, and then it goes through reading books, right? Listening to this type of podcast that can be enriched for the future. Yeah, so that's glad to hear. And again, we are very disciplined in the military, but sometimes we actually be more disciplined in our mind also to continue training our mindset. Now, the next question isn't about leadership and resilience, right? So we talk about who you are, where you came from, your background, and then how you build the MindShift experience and working with corporate and nonprofits. Now, this question is in the military and even in business, because you talk about you work with a lot of business pressure. The pressure is constant, like even in the military, right? So we have all this pressure that we have to actually meet timelines. The up tempos are high, and then constantly we have that pressure to meet the mission. Now, the question that follow that statement is: how can leaders thrive under pressure, is instead of collapsing under that pressure?
Oh, I love that. So that's what the whole mind shift experience is about. It's called self-regulation. If we don't have the ability to self-regulate, we don't have the ability to be able to function properly. And that means, you come from military, okay? One of the most important things, whether you're in military, business leader, parent, whoever you are, if you're not constantly self-regulating, we're putting things in our environment that don't belong there. For instance, what if we were even not breathing properly? Okay, maybe we worked out our body, we're super healthy, whatever it means. But even getting out of cadence, being out of cadence with our breath is going to have an impact. There's 13 things that we measure from an individual. If you don't sleep properly, you're not going to function properly. As a matter of fact, it impacts your mental performance and your ability to be able to think clearly. It's not that the job is difficult. Okay, I get it. Maybe more is asked of us. And yet other people are doing it. Why is it difficult? Maybe there's 100 people in the room, and for those 100, for 99 of those are easy. For that one person, it may be hard. For me, it's the self-regulation. Self-regulation to me is like taking a shower. And some days it's 3 times a day. Okay. If I need to self-regulate, if I need to come back to center, if I need to listen to a meditation, I was listening to music right before we came on. Why? Because that helps me self-regulate. And it's not just any music. There's particular music, hydration. All these things make a huge impact. Proper sleep. Imagine you go 2-3 days without proper sleep. You're functioning at 30% less capacity, mental capacity. So anything that comes into us, we don't have the capacity to be able to navigate that because of it. And so again, it's not that the job is difficult. Yes, in a sense, it may be asking more of you. Yeah. It is possible. That's why it's being asked, because it's possible, not because it's not.
No, most definitely. Yeah. Self-regulation, regulate is something that we have to actually understand when we get those pressure points where it's like, okay, let me take a breather. Let me relax for a moment. And then before I feel like everything is going to be collapsed, because to be honest, I feel those moments. I'm about to be a mayor in the United States Army, and I've been through those situations, right? Leading soldiers, being a company commander, having all the situations in my today's position. So I'm the team leader for the lock phase here in the Captain Cadet course, and I oversee over 100 students, and 100 different like situations that coming at me. Sometimes you have to pace yourself. It's like, okay, I know I have to deal with all these 100 situations, but okay, so we have to self-regulate, and that's a great advice, Rocio. Now, the next question here is, what role does efficacy play in becoming unstoppable?
Wow, that is everything. For being unstoppable, it allows you, self-efficacy allows you to be clear. It allows you to be concise. It allows you to be present. I think self-efficacy is part of it all. That's where it all begins. It allows us to be aware, like, is there something going on? And if there is, what do I need? Maybe I just need a quick break. Military does great. Go take a break. Go do whatever you need to do in order to come back into the present moment. But it gives us, now I'm aware that something's going on. Now I can do something about what's going on. So going through that process, and self-regulation is part of that process. Self-efficacy means self-care to begin with. And I think a lot of us think that it's very selfish. No, if you didn't sleep properly, you didn't eat properly, you're not breathing properly, there's things that are off in your body that are not working out, you don't have the ability to be able to perform. So if you don't have the ability to be able to perform, you can't reflect on what's going on. You're not aware of what's going on. You can't correct and self-regulate if you don't know what's going on. You may think that somebody's doing something to you, when in fact, it's us doing something to ourselves.
No, most definitely. We need to be able to understand that. And then, how do you help leaders to balance structure, heart, and boldness?
That's very interesting. I think all of it comes from self-efficacy to begin with. How do you balance what you want to do? I think a lot of us, at least in my career experience, when I come across engineers or accountants or doctors and people in general, like, this is the career that I went into because, it pleases mother, father, teacher, preacher, whoever it was that influenced us to get into that career. And sometimes it was us. We influenced ourselves to get into these careers that we weren't even passionate about. So how do we balance this? Coming back to the basics, coming back to what makes my heart sing. Maybe I made this decision and I'm also choosing to continue on. Now I'm aware that I made this decision to be in this career that I didn't want to be in, but I'm going to continue in that career because it's the best thing for me, right? It's the best thing in my life, whatever it is. But the most important thing is, like, how do you manage that heart? Coming back, remember why you're doing what you're doing. A lot of us are doing it for our families. We want to make sure that our families are taken care of. We want to make sure that they're set, whatever that is, that we continue moving forward with that vision in mind. So that's how we balance, one, what, even being aware, even if it's not what I want to do, I can choose to continue doing that. So that's how we balance the heart, the mind, how we balance to be unstoppable. Now, instead of being a victim to it, because sometimes we do find ourselves being victims to certain things, or it wasn't quite my choice. But guess what? Now I have a choice. Even if I'm in the same situation, I still have a choice on how I show up in life, how I respond, because we're either responding or we're reacting to something that now it's a tool versus being coasted.
Yes, appreciate it, Rocio. And then, can you tell us about the MindShift game and the MindShift University? And then, how can people use this tool on their daily life?
Wow, you asked some great questions. So I think the MindShift game and the MindShift University. So first of all, coming back into the MindShift experience, why it was
Hmm.
built. It was built to help people create their version of a happy, healthy, and fulfilling life. There's nothing nice if we're not fulfilled. And so that came about. What were the affirmations? And I talked about this in the beginning of the interview, is there's conversations that we're having with ourselves, right? Those are things that we can see for ourselves, affirmations that we're using. As a matter of fact, I have affirmations. I mean, military,
Hmm.
who best knows military as courageous and as confident, right? You're building confidence, you're expanding vision, but it's your vision, not mother, father, teacher, preacher's vision. And then you're stepping into your power in ways that you had not stepped into before, elevating your energy to make that possible. This is a physical game. It has a journal that helps you create every single day new neural pathways into who you choose to be, right? Let's say that I'm a business owner and I'm on stages and I don't like being on stages. How do I play a game with myself in my own private space where I continue to grow and build those new neural pathways and taking those chances? So that's what the mind shift game is all about. It's backed by science. We have psychologists that back it up all over the world. The phenomenal thing is that in a year, as you play this game for a whole year, you will be unrecognizable to yourself and to others because it's a whole new different person that emerges. A new identity emerges.
And this is tied to the actual MindShift University. Like I know the MindShift game is tied to the MindShift University.
You can use them both and you can
Hmm.
use them individually. And my invitation is that you use them both. One is going to give you, so the mind shift game is going to give you the opportunity to be able to create those new neural pathways that are important for you to be
Hmm.
successful. The MindShift University is going to give you awareness
Hmm.
of psychological safety, change management, critical conversations. It's going to talk about blind spots. It's going to talk about how we even self-sabotage. So those are courses, online courses that you can take. They're self-study courses. And for those business leaders and individuals who want to take those courses with us, we do have a school as well where I teach those live. So you can come in and join, and that gives you an opportunity to shift, gives you an opportunity to take a look at things. The other thing, I am going to go back to the mind shift game. The game in and of itself, because it is a booklet that you'll get, there
Hmm.
is a journal. The journal tells a story. It's like accounting and finance. When you go
Hmm.
back through and you see everything that you did, it even has a scorecard, and you get to decide. You have full self-efficacy and self-agency, a sense of self-agency while playing this. It'll show you what you've been doing. When you take a look and reflect and say, okay, what did Rocio do Wednesday night? Why is Rocio not scoring as high as she is on Tuesday and Wednesday? Why is she not scoring as high on Fridays or Mondays? What happened over the weekend, right? It helps you develop the awareness and be able to shift the way that you're seeing. So I'm going to name four things right here, Manuel. One, the mind shift game, new neural pathways. It shows you who you've been and what you're doing, and it guides you along the way. That game is played in 8-week rounds. You can continue playing it over and over again. The MindShift University brings you awareness into what the things that may be blocking you from even connecting into wisdom, the ability to be able to reflect and review. right? That's going to give you a lot of tools. That's self-study. Then we have the school. The school gives you an opportunity to interact with me live as well. And however it is that you want to get information, we have books like the book Unstoppable. We have
Hmm.
books like Fortaleza. We have books like Identity Alchemy that you can do your own work. We have a TV show, podcast show, and so forth. So it's pretty exciting to be able to meet people where they're at, however they want to receive the information. You want to receive it in podcast? Perfect. Go ahead. You want to play a game? Go ahead. And it's not necessarily just a game. It is a system that transforms your life completely.
Hmm. No, obviously, there's different ways that how people learn. I mean, some more visual, some more other like learn through like practice. Some other learns about like reading. So I think it offer various of different learning experiences for the listeners and the people who want to actually play this game. That it seems very interesting. So now I'm leaning towards like to start playing it myself to better my mind shift. Now, if one of our listeners here at Rocio wants to start a mini mind shift today, what will be the first steps in do so?
Well, first is asking ourselves, why do I want to do this? I think that's the biggest thing. Why do I want to do it? Understand, am I curious? That's curiosity is going to happen in the way that it shows up. It's like, okay, am I curious? Like, hey, I want to take a look at it. Am I interested or am I committed to it? So decide what it is because that's what you're going to get out of it. So if we're curious, we're only going to get, we might get some information. If we're really interested and moving forward with it, we're going to do it over and over again. And sometimes life happens and then we stop doing things and we don't even know why. I remember there's things that I look back and I'm like, wow, when did I stop doing that? So I recognize that I was interested. But when I'm committed, if my level is commitment, when my level is commitment, I'm going to do it rain, shine, travel. I have like my commitment to deliver this work to people. I have gone from a gravesite to deliver a training an hour and a half later. I have watched my best friend take his last breath and go on the stage 2 hours later, right? That is commitment. And there's nothing more that he would want for me to do than to do the very thing that I committed to doing, right? Those are things that are going to happen no matter what happens in my life. I'm still going to do what I know is important for me to do.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think my curiosity starts tingling. So I think I'm gonna start like playing that mini mind shift game to see from my self perspective. Now, as we closing out, Rocio, appreciated the time. I know you're busy at this time. You have to stop some of the seminars that you have. Again, appreciate it from on behalf of the ANSO again and Jose Montalban, which is the presidente, for being here today and sharing the story. Who are you, and then like what's the mind shift for our listeners. You have a upcoming book, Identity Alchemy. It sounds very powerful. Can you give us a preview of what the readers will take away?
Absolutely. What the readers will take away, Identity Alchemy is my life's work. It is something that I'm so proud of to be able to share with the world. It shows how we have been conditioned and programmed throughout our lives. Brings awareness to ourselves. This book has been endorsed by psychologists, doctors, professionals all over the world, military personnel, people who have been in different places, retired, may I say. It's been a phenomenal experience to guide people on a journey of self-discovery to understand ourselves first and foremost. The book has a lot of examples. It even has places to reflect. It is absolutely phenomenal. We'll be launching it out of Coronado in California on October 8th. We're so, so excited about it. And the most important thing that the book will provide for people is the ability to be able to understand themselves so that they can start making mental mind shifts along the way. It is a very exciting opportunity to bring this work to people.
No, it sounds very powerful and exciting at the same time. And good luck with the the release, upcoming release in the book in California. And then from Unstoppable to the Hispanic journey, you have captured story of grit and transformation. Which of your books has been the most personal to write? Can you actually share with
Wow.
us?
That's a great question. And I would say all of them have their own journey. So when I wrote Unstoppable, it was really to understand how our mind works, right? And
Mm,
it into that. When I wrote the Hispanic journey, the same thing, to have people, amazing leaders in that. When I wrote Fortaleza, like I feel like every single one of these books me retaron. They challenged me to
mhm.
be who I am, right? Like Fortaleza, do you really have the strength to be talking about strength and things that happen in life? Like, is
Mhm.
this really your journey? Can you really show me that you're unstoppable? When I did the mind shift game, and I'll even put in the game and the experience, and they're like, really? Do you have the capacity to shift your mind? And now with identity alchemy, I would say that identity alchemy, each of them had their own experience. But identity alchemy brought me to my knees.
Mm. Wow.
Say that it made me shed tears. It made me think about my life in ways that I had never thought about. It has allowed me to become more aware of where my patterns and behaviors and be able to transcend things that I didn't even know that were holding me back. Like my success was trapped in my inability to be vulnerable.
Wow.
And I'm going to
Big.
repeat, my success was trapped in my inability to be vulnerable in my life. And so when I started to discover all these reasons why I was having difficulty in my life, I mean, come on, you can give somebody all the time, energy, money, resources. And I always wondered about them, like, Rocio, you're highly educated. Rocio, you've been on media, you're here, you're there, you're teaching. I'm teaching doctors, I'm showing people what I'm doing. And why don't I feel fulfilled?
Wow.
That's because it's internal. Nothing that could be given to me on the outside is going to make a greater impact than me understanding the inside. And when I can shift the inside, the outside becomes even more amazing. And that's the beauty of it. Now I'm aware. Okay, compartmentalization was one of those things, Manuel, for me. I used to compartmentalize because of the abuse and the trauma and life and whatever. Well, guess what, Rocio? How you do anything is how you do everything. I was compartmentalizing in every area of my life. And when I realized compartmentalization was one of those coping mechanisms in my life, I was able to shift that. Now it's a tool, not a way of being, as that makes sense right there, right? This is autopilot. This is a tool. I get to use it when I want to. Over here, I'm always operating like that, which is unhealthy. To a certain degree, we've got to stop what we were doing so that we can start doing what we were really meant to do.
No, and again, I'm just listening to your words, and it's like resonates in my head. And it's like I start thinking now. How can you define? And I think this is my last two questions. How can you define then success, right, based on your experience?
Mm. Success is getting up every morning and doing what makes your heart sing. Okay, to me,
Mm-hmm.
that's what success. That means that I feel fulfilled. That means that I'm content and happy, and call it what you will where I'm at, that I'm not feeling like an obligation, like, oh, and now I have to go do this. I define success, it's your version of a happy, healthy, wealthy, fulfilling life. Punto. It's your version. It's not, I'm trying to follow somebody else's dream. I'm not trying to emulate anybody. It is me. I know that within me that I could sleep at night and I'm happy. I'm content. I know that there isn't something there. See, when we're unhappy with what we're doing, it's always nudging at us. We're stressed out. There's something that's always not working out for us. But when we're happy and when we're content and when we're fulfilled, even problems seem like opportunities to create something new.
Yep, that's a great definition right there. Appreciate it, Rocio, to share with us. And then, as we closing out again, one more time, thank you, Rocio, for taking for your busy schedule to be here with the ANSO podcast and the ANSO community, and on behalf of the Jose Montalban Presidente and us, thank you again for sharing with to share this with us. Any good advice or any piece of advice to those listeners, whether they're military or not military, about they're trying to pursue their careers and that they feel like they cannot achieve those goals, they feel stranded.
There's always somebody here to guide us. And my invitation is connect with me, right? Let's have a conversation. Let's figure out. I've been there, I've done that. I get it. And I know exactly how hard it is to go through things. And everybody's story is very unique. Everybody's opportunity is unique. My invitation to anyone and everyone out there is like, it's possible. If it's nudging at you, it's possible. And you know that it's possible. And so reach out. There's always help. There's always help from somebody. Everything is difficult. And I learned this when I was in San Diego. I came into town in 2014. And in one of the opportunities that we had to volunteer at a respite care where children were ill, very ill, this young girl, she was 11 years old. She comes out, everything is hard until it becomes easy. And I said, what? Wow, everything is hard until it becomes easy. And it stuck with me for the last decade plus to say, yes, until somebody shows you the way, until somebody leads, until you can see that there's a way of doing things, and it's going to take what it takes, right? There's a way of doing things that's easier. There's a way of doing things that's hard. The choice is yours. But most importantly, it's going to take what it's going to take. And whatever level of effort and commitment we put into it is going to, you get the results. That's it. It's your result. It's your mission. It's your vision. It's your dream. It's your life. I'm just here simply to help along the way, share some tools, share guidance that it's possible, and life becomes easier. We've had people graduate from our programs that are unrecognizable. As a matter of fact, we have people that even look 10 years younger, people who were homeless, and all of a sudden, now they're graduated top in the nation. Like, how do you do that? It's the level of commitment. But we're here to support how people want to be supported.
So, Rocio, thank you again. And how the listeners can reach at you? Can you share your information? Also, it's going to be on the description here below on YouTube, so you can share with us and the listeners.
Thank you. They can call me. They can literally call me at 303-587-8367. That's 303-587-8367. If you want to go ahead and text me, let me know that you saw me here on ANSO, on the podcast, and let's connect. You can reach me on LinkedIn. We're on Instagram. We're on YouTube. Any of those channels. You can email me at rocio@themindshiftgame.com as well. You can instant message me on LinkedIn. You can even send us a message on Facebook. Most importantly, do the one-on-one connection. Pick up the phone, give me a call, send me a text if you can't, leave me a message if I'm not available, and let's connect. There's always ways to connect.
Well, Rocio, appreciate it again. Thank you on behalf of the ANSO Podcast, and Jose Montalban, Presidente. Thank you for being here today and sharing this powerful story and the MindShift experience and game.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure, and I'm so looking forward to connecting with you soon.
Well, Rocio, thank you so much for sharing your story of your wisdoms with us here at the ANSO Podcast. We built what you built, the MindShift experience, is not a leadership framework. It is a life framework. And I know our listeners are walking away inspired of this conversation. For everyone turning in, you can connect with Rocio at www.themindshiftgame.com or on LinkedIn. You can find Rocío Pérez on LinkedIn also, and send a message so you can connect. As always, thank you for you listening on the ANSO Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and share with a friend or a teammate who could use the mind shift today. Until next time, lead with courage, serve with purpose, and continue that conversation. This is Manuel Calo out.